Mhm.
All right, so we have a few participants in here, a few attendees. Hello. Oh, there's another Andrea, so welcome. Annette, DeLuise, Gotti, Karen, Linda, Terry, Tony, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Mind Health Shop Talk, the Balancing Act. So we're excited about this. So the Black Mental Health Alliance for Education and Consultation is pleased to work with Kaiser Permanente for the good health, great hair. We all have great hair, right? So this initiative, we are usually in the barber shops and beauty shops throughout the West Baltimore. These forums are led by licensed mental health clinicians or someone with life experience that includes culturally competent mental health information and resources. So we're just glad that we have good information going out there while we're in the barber shops and beauty shops, thanks to the training that Kaiser Permanente is giving us. And so usually we're in the salons, but now thanks to our pandemic, we're trying to be safe, and we'll be doing the rest of the year virtually. So I will hand over I'm sorry. So some of the Zoom rules, everyone is muted on the line except for the panelists. We're going to have a panel discussion today. So if you would like to ask or submit comments, questions, just for the comments, use the chat, which usually it's at the bottom of your screen. You'll see that pop up. You could just submit your comments there. If you have questions, use the Q&A, because then we're able to send the questions to our panelists easier. So with that, I'm going to introduce our awesome Ms. Alma Roberts, and she will be doing some introductions for Kaiser Permanente.
Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to be here with you all tonight, and glad you all could take time out of your schedules. I'm Alma Roberts, Interim Director of Community Health for Kaiser Permanente of the Mid-Atlantic states. And Kaiser Permanente, you're saying, what are we doing in a barbershop and a beauty salon, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we've pivoted virtually? What is good health and great hair? And so Kaiser Permanente, across its 8 regions, has what we call community health initiatives and departments. And those departments extend Kaiser Permanente's commitment to what we call total health, realizing that there's only so much that our clinicians can do behind the walls of our medical centers, that there are social determinants of health that impact the trajectory of the well-being of our 12.3 million members and the 68 million residents of the communities in which those members live. And so the community health departments of the 8 regions are tasked with developing strategic initiatives that advance the social determinants of health. The organization has what we call 8 bold moves, 8 common areas of focus, of which economic opportunity and impact is one, of which social health is one, housing, thriving schools, food for life. Those resonate with you all. You hear social determinants. Those are national initiatives. And in the Mid-Atlantic region, we have our Good Health and Great Hair initiative that, as Roxana said, they operated initially in the barbershops for the first 3 phases. But when the pandemic hit, we have both pivoted this initiative, these shop talks, to virtual, as well as our financial literacy to virtual, our fitness classes to virtual. But we are still exercising very cautious and careful measures. We're still in doing our screenings and our flu shots and the like in proximity to our barbershops. We're not going into them, but we are doing them in open air spaces in close proximity, so that we are giving free flu shots. We are doing diabetes testing, hypertension, BMI, and those types of things in close proximity to our partner barbershops and beauty salons throughout West Baltimore. So the Good Health, Great Hair initiative has numerous partners because KP, Kaiser Permanente, believes in doing almost everything in partnership. And none is a more valuable partner than the Black Mental Health Alliance and these Mind Health Shop Talks. Tonight, the balancing act, what more appropriate thing should we be talking about in these troubling times? The dual pandemics that we are dealing with, I'm adding a third. I think the political upheaval is a third kind of pandemic, though it is manifesting the racialized pandemic. It is in itself suggesting that our democracy is not safe. And so that we have a lot of balancing to do, a lot of taking care of loved ones and self and professional life and personal life, all in the balance right now. And so tonight we're going to hear some wonderful advice, some coping tools and the like. I am delighted to turn the microphone, the screen, and everything else over to my partner in crime, to Andrea Brown, the Executive Director of the Black Mental Health Alliance. Thank you all for being here and look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Thank you so much, Alma. So you heard her say partner in crime. She really does mean that. But I have to say it is, again, thank you for joining us this evening, and special thanks to our partner, collaborator, and just all around innovative thinker. I really want to thank Alma for that. I like her thinking outside of the box and thinking her forward thinking. And so it is important that we engage in critical, important dialogue, right? That we engage in programming that makes sense during this critical moment. And it's interesting that she talked about the 3 pandemics, and she's absolutely right. And so just so you know that folk are not forgotten, especially women and those of us who are Black people. We have not forgotten, and we count it a privilege and part of our life's work and mission to be able to provide you with quality discussion. So I am Andrea Brown, for the record. I am not somebody else. I am the Executive Director for the Black Mental Health Alliance. And again, I am excited that you are here, and I'll be mindful about my comments today, because I think in the interest of time, it will be important that you hear from us as a collective, and quite frankly, that we hear from you. And so today we are excited to talk about the balancing act. And we often talk about how do we juggle multiple glass balls and don't drop any of them. And somehow we, because of our resilience as a people, we seem to be able to do that. But tonight I want to challenge you. Tonight, it's going to look a little bit different. Pretend we are at the salon getting our hair cut. I know I don't have much hair, but I still will go to the salon, right? And we are having a dialogue and we are chiming in. And so that's what I want this to be for you today, because today will be a bit provocative. We're going to talk a little bit about how do we get to the balancing act and what does that look like? And so I'm going to let you in on a little small secret. Well, in order to really get to a place where we're able to balance, it really does mean that we've got to figure out what radical self-care for Black women and Black people look like. And so we're going to start there. I know you thought you signed up for something else, and we'll get to that. But I promise you, in order to balance, we've got to talk about radical self-care. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask we have 2 amazing panelists today, and we'll go back and forth. I am going to ask my colleague, Len Johnson, to introduce them. And after that, I think the next voice you will hear will probably be mine, and then we will kick off the dialogue.
Good evening. I have the honor to introduce to some and present to others our guest speakers for the evening. I'll start with Reverend Shavon Arline-Bradley. He is the president and founding principal of Reach Beyond Solutions, LLC, a faith advocacy, executive leadership, and public health firm. Shavon is also the co-founder of the Health Equity Cipher Group, a collaborative of nationally recognized health equity experts designed to promote health, equity, and diversity and inclusion in all sectors. The Southern New Jersey native is a public health advocate and former track and field athlete, earned her Bachelor of Science degree in exercise physiology and Master's of Public Health degree from the Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana. Reverend Arline-Bradley earned her Master's in Divinity at the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Technology at Virginia Union University. She received an executive certificate from Howard University School of Business and Executive Leadership for Faith Leaders. This sister's doing a lot of stuff. Shavon is a member of the American Public Health Association, member of Jack and Jill American, and the Links Incorporated in Columbia, Maryland, where she serves on the Eastern Area Leadership Team chairing Health and Human Services. Shavon is a member of the Columbia, Maryland chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and serves on the National Executive Board of Delta as a co-chair of the National Social Action Commission. In 2018, Shavon became an ordained Baptist preacher, and currently an associate at the Alfred Street Baptist Church under the leadership of the senior pastor, the Reverend Howard John Wesley in Alexandria, Virginia. She was appointed the youngest member of the newly formed Advocacy Council, member of Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology and Virginia Union. Shavon is a proud wife of Andrew Bradley and mother of 6-year-old Micah Benjamin Bradley and 20-year-old daughter, Amira James. Welcome. So excited to be able to hear you tonight. And then my colleague, friend, and leader, if you would, Nia Jones, a consultant with the Black Mental Health Alliance Education and Consultation Incorporated, is responsible for leading the Youth Wellness Initiative and other special projects as assigned. Nia is a licensed social worker with a passion for organizations and the people that work in them. Nia has created and executed recruitment plans for large and small companies with 100% hired rate and managed HR portfolios for over 500 individuals and product lines, generating revenue over $5 million annually. Nia has a passion for working with youth and has been committed to youth development for over 15 years. You could hardly believe that looking at her. She has held various roles in youth development organizations such as Life Skills Technician, Youth Ministry Leader, and Leaders. Nia's 10-year career in HR impacted youth in her hometown and across the state of Maryland. In October 2019, Nia partnered with a friend to launch a wellness company called Uncommon Solutions, Inc., an organization that believes in the power of whole families to support and restore the village, cultivating wealth and success in our community. Uncommon Solutions combines complementary and alternative medicine, CAM, with relatable and comfortable therapeutic approaches to create optimal health for people of color. Nia is a native Baltimorean and received her bachelor's degree from Morgan State University in 2010 and returned to her alma mater to receive her master's of social work with a concentration in school social work, in 2014. Nia is a RISE Fellowship Program graduate, Kennedy Krieger Institute, and certified art therapy coach. Nia is the wife of Bryce and mother of Jackson. She enjoys reading, writing, listening to music, learning about new technology, and crafting. I present to you Ms. Shavon Arline-Bradley and Ms. Nia Jones. So Brown, do you want to say something else?
No, I think you've said it all.
That was it. Good.
That was it. So thank you so much. I am going to, we're going to leave with this. So two things. Again, what a perfect, we have the perfect panel. They bring much
Fire.
wisdom and expertise and fire, quite frankly. And so super excited about that. I do want to share this photo. You should see it on your screen. It is the upcoming magazine that will come out, that will be released next week in the New Yorker. And it should be on stands on Monday. And this struck me when we talk about the balancing act and why we have these conversations and why any of us do the work that we do. It's for her and for the young Black girls across the continent. It's for her. And the thought that she would hold up a flag so that she believes perhaps that there is a democracy. We owe it to her and those like her to find out, number one, what do we do to take care of ourselves so we pass the mantle in the right way, right? And what do we do? What else do we need to be sowing into the lives of those that look like her? She is my new absolute shero. I can't imagine that she's more than 8, but I wanted to share that so that we often talk about why we do what we do. That's exactly why. And so again, welcome tonight with us. Roxana, if you could put up the screen and then I'm going to turn it over to the team. Yes. So, and you can type in the chat. Just want to get your, and we'll come back to it, but just want to get, if you would talk to us about what are the top 3 emotions you felt in the past 48 hours? And, you know, there are many. You may have your own. I'd love for both Nia and Shavon to be able to weigh in as they kick us off. One of the things that Alma said early, that we're not dealing with no longer twin pandemics, it's a triple pandemic. And so love to hear, and thank you, Tony, for talking about joy, fear, sadness, and hope. But I am going to let the ladies lead us, and then I will ask a question, but I'll let you guys go first about your top 3 emotions that you felt in the past 48 hours. Siobhan, you want to kick us off?
Let's see. I am trying to assess the wheel. I will say I have felt enraged. I am a Black public health leader in the midst of a political season. So all of my emotions have led me to being enraged in a moment. I will also say I have felt zeal. And my zeal has been the euphoric feeling of a completion. I write, I'm a writing learner. So even when people have notes and screens and slides, I actually physically write down slides because that's been my way to be auditory and also tactical. And so the zeal for me to put an X through something makes me feel very good. The accomplishment space. And I will also say I've had a little bit of feeling of sentimental. My son is 6 years old and he lost a tooth. And to see that big space for any mom of any little person, and any mom of big people that remember little people in their lives, or the nieces and nephews that you've had, there's something about him trying to tell me he loves me with his tongue in the middle of his tooth. And he's like, I love you, mommy. And boy, he takes my breath away. And so that, I almost cried, that feeling, I can't put that into words. So those, I've had all of the emotions. And so I'm excited about the conversation tonight to talk more about how that plays out in our discussion.
Thank you, Siobhan. Nia, can you share with us a little?
Sure. I need some of that loose tooth energy over here though, because Jackson will be 8 next year and nothing is leaving and he keeps pressing me out over these teeth. So I need some of that. But I felt several emotions on this wheel. I think the top 3, first one is rage. And we can definitely, I'm sure it'll come up as to why it has to do with Black women and self-care and therapy. I felt moved by a couple of books that I'm reading, and excited just to be here in this moment and the work that the organization is doing. It gets me out of the bed every morning, so it's something there.
So thank you both for sharing that. And Roxana, you can take that down because I'm about to turn this over to them. And thank you for those of you who have, I saw content, I saw anger, I saw a number of things. So thank you for those of you who shared with us. I appreciate that. I will say two other things before we just begin this discussion. And that is, you know, I know that there are some men that may be joining us. And so this is for you because I know that at some point you're connected to a Black woman and or a woman. And so, and for you as you balance, right? I certainly don't want to take that away, but just know that we will use, you will hear us a lot talk about self-care. And I want to be able to say this before I open up, you know, oftentimes, and I'll leave with this question. Oftentimes we talk about, when we even bring up to women the notion of self-care, we automatically feel like that's an act of selfishness. And I know that that's not so. So we've been so used to taking care of everybody else. So I'd love for you, the both of you, I'd love for you to get your take on the balancing act, but more importantly on self-care and what that really is. You know, what kind of, is that selfish? And if it's not, I know, Nia, you often talk to your clients. I'd be curious what they say and what you say to them about self-care, considering based on how we were raised. You know, you take care of mama, you take care of daddy, you take care of all of these other people, but we never get to take care. So this is almost a new sort of narrative that we're having to teach ourselves. So I'm going to let you guys go, and then I'll bring up another question as you guys are talking.
We did the same thing. I think when I think about self-care, I automatically think of Mr. Black Mental Health Alliance, our favorite Mr. Richard Rowe, and he talks about Black women holding up the sky. And so I as soon as he says it, I always imagine like somebody like Atlas going like this, right? Holding up the world, holding up the sky. But I realize how that leaves you exposed in the middle, right? So you're holding up everything for everybody else, but you're consistently exposed. Your heart is exposed, your lungs, that which gives you air to breathe, is exposed. And so it's then consistently under attack. And so when I talk to my clients about self-care, I tell them, there are two lanes, right? They always come to me with, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my nails done, and I'm gonna get my hair done, and I'm gonna go get something to eat, right? And I say, that's great, but what are you really going to do with yourself? Are you intentionally going to take time to just sit and be with yourself? And so we talk about drive-through self-care. And I think I've said this before, drive-through self-care versus restaurant self-care. When you go through drive-through, if you pull up at Chick-fil-A, Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, pick your poison, right? When I pull up at the drive-through, I'm there to get something to eat, but most likely it's not going to sustain me very long, right? And so I pull up because I have to eat something. I get my food and I'm on to the next thing. Nails, hair, pedicure, all of that stuff, that's drive-through. It's for a moment in time and you're going to return to your reality, right? Restaurant self-care, when you are in a restaurant, and COVID has taken that away, but when you're in a restaurant, your waiter is there constantly filling your empty cup, right? They never let it get empty. And if they do, you take their tip. But if they don't, they're constantly filling your cup, asking you what you need. Are you comfortable? Do you need anything else? When something hits the floor, they replace it, right? And so they are attentive to your every need in that moment. And so I encourage my clients to exercise their self-care by it's okay to go get your fast food, right? But it's much more important to sit with yourself, fill up your empty cup, and really take time to understand that which you need so that you can make sure while you're holding up the world that you have some armor across your chest.
Yeah, that was amazing. And let me tell you what really comes to mind when I think about selfishness, and that is the myth of selfishness. There is a myth that if you care for yourself, that you are in somehow conflict with your conscience, or you're in conflict with upbringing and rearing, and in some cases religion, and in some cases mama. So I have begun to really strike down this myth that selfishness is a sin. It's not. I've come to adjust my context. Selfishness is sanity. Selfishness means that I see myself before I opt into anything else. Now, the selfish part of not being someone that is empathetic or sympathetic is where I call that the problem. When you have put yourself above someone else, knowing that you are well, knowing that it will harm someone, that's something different. I call it as much of a sin as if you harm yourself, as the same thing as harming someone else. I have just really tried to recalculate it for myself. And I'm also someone who struggles in this space. I was looking at the chat, and the boldness of Black women, specifically Black women, but our culture in general, look at the DNA of Black women, the social DNA of Black women. Slavery, right? Fields, birth a baby, finish picking cotton, right? This is the context of what we're talking about. So selfishness doesn't even make sense socially for Black women, right? And then you go and you carry a civil rights movement, you carry the faith institution, you carry the house, you carry constantly. So it is unfair to make this ask of Black women who have been conditioned to say, just make sure everybody's good. I mean, look at the kitchen in Thanksgiving. I know my house, my grandmother didn't eat until the whole house. And she would still be in the kitchen standing eating. I mean, so it's just, and contextually, what do? You emulate what you see generation after generation. So I will tell you, the sanity that I'm looking for now is to help people understand it is just as bad as you harming someone as if you harm yourself. That is the same offense. What makes it worse is that the offense is, in most cases, deadly. Death to your physical body, to your emotional self, to your spiritual self, to your mental self. And what I realize is that when there is morbidity and mortality in a conversation, that means something else will never function. That's a finite space and place. And in the Black community, we've got to get ourselves to the point where selfishness that does no harm, but promotes our wellness is absolutely right in the sight of the divine. Because if you promote your wellness, that means you're giving your best to someone else.
So it's interesting that you say that, because that in alone is a campaign. I mean, seriously, if you are talking about, promoting wellness and this whole, when you run down the social DNA of Black women, right? You talk about obviously picking cotton, having babies, and all of these other things. We nurse our babies and we nurse theirs, right?
All day long.
So that's what we know. And so what you are asking, I mean, it's almost revolutionary. Seriously, you are asking us to be real radical in a way that we've not been before, nor have we been trained, right?
Correct.
And so, and even Nia's McDonald's, well, she didn't say McDonald's, whatever she said, even her drive-through versus, the full experience. And they keep, you can't have your cup, you can't have your cup be empty. None of us can give from an empty cup. Yet, time after time, that's all we do is give from an empty cup. And then you would have the audacity, and I say the audacity, to bring up my grandmother, right? My grandmother, who was a role model, all 6 of her children would come to her house with their children. And, aunties and everybody would be in the kitchen cooking. But that, you know, I'm challenged. What you say is true, but I am challenged because
Yep.
it goes back to, you know, that's what we do, you know, and then we all, after everything's done, then she sits, but it's all over then. Fellowship has happened. She's tired, ankles are sore, her back hurts. So you are asking us to do something radical, right? I mean, honestly. And I think Nia often had, and I'm not sure if this was an Audre Lorde quote that she has, or maybe, I don't remember who it was, but Nia, you quote this all the time, and I'm gonna get it wrong, so why don't you make me look good and get it right? And that is about the self-resistant. Can you help me out on that? About self-care?
Self-care as an act of resistance.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you sign my checks.
And so I guess, you know, to both of you, that all sounds wonderful in theory. And help me understand, how do we get to that place? And then what does that look like? Because I like the whole, I get my nails done, I get a massage, if you can get, but I think it's deeper than that. I mean, those things are important. And so I'm not belittling those things and I'm not minimizing them, but it is much larger. Talk to us about how, you know, you put my grandmother out there, and then talk me through how I get better or what to do next.
Yeah. So don't lose the spirit of your grandmother, because her heart is what made us who we are. But what I'm saying is change your methods. So you can create the party. You can post-COVID. Thank you. You can put your mask on. Did I say that in Facebook Live? You hear me? Public health first. Have the spirit of her. Have the heart that she has. But here's the difference between your grandmother and you: access. You now have access to information and access to specific opportunities that were not a reality in her lifetime. I'm in my 40s. My grandmothers are both going on to be with the Lord. One was 99, born in 1914. The same woman that would never lift her head to a white person. You see? So I was even the epitome of changing my methods when I would lift her face up and say, no, look at his eye. Make him respect you. Your methods have to change even for this. Respect my time. Respect my no. Respect that I choose another route. And so part of that is practicing that, because that's not, no is a hard sentence for some people. I know it because I've done that. It's hard to say no to certain people, to certain experiences. Let's be honest, to certain traumas that you're familiar with. And so as you think about this, some of it is garnering up the courage. And here's what the other piece is: trying it out on something that you know you didn't think you're gonna be able to say no to, and seeing how you survive. Because that's really a part of it. Her grandmom's methods were, that's all she knew. This is not all you know now. Now we're shifting culture and saying, sister, brother, by God, take care of your body, because guess what? You not being here is helping no one. That's really what this has to be a real conversation for you in your self-talk. So practice on it. Use the sentence no, try it out. And let me say the last thing I would say is write down a list. Prioritize this thing. I've had to do it on a number of occasions. Prioritize your it's. So there's like the necessities, there's like the things that you love to do. Like for me, my necessities are I have a company. I have to run the company. My civic organizations for me are a necessity, but do I need them? Will Delta not live if I don't do Delta? No. But there's some things that I know I want to give, right? When I'm at the church, when I'm doing stuff for the church, is the church going to survive without me? Nobody made me Jesus. No, right? There's some things I can say no to, because what matters, and look at this pandemic, and it's taught us this, what matters now is your necessities. And we need food, water, and shelter. We need love and affection and family. List out your priorities, circle the must-haves, and find out what's left on the list, because that's going to surprise you. Trust me, it surprised me, my non-circled stuff. I had to do it before. I didn't like it. because I didn't feel comfortable not doing all of them.
You know, you raised we made several important points, and Nia, please at any point jump in here. One of the things you talked about, you know, write down the list. Got it, get that, makes sense. I love the grandma. Yes, she didn't have access, right? But I do. But you also talk about, you know, once we find out what it is we need, what we really don't want to do without, we should circle that. And you raise a number of things. We talk about relationships, right? And so I think it's important that we are honest about what we need in our relationships. And I'm not talking about judgment. I am talking about what we need. And you said, you know, intimacy is important. And I really want us to, you know, one of our colleagues lives alone, and she said, you know, she just wanted a hug. She said, that's all. When COVID first started, she said, I just want a hug, right? And I don't know if that's self-care, but when I think about even taking that to another level in our relationships, I think it's important to identify our needs, not be ashamed of them, right? And then act responsibly to have them met. And so I'd love to, you know, I want the two of you to weigh in. But before you do, somebody just, you know, I'm a huge Audre Lorde fan. And somebody put in the chat, probably Roxana, Audre Lorde said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. Instead, it is preservation, an act of political warfare. And I want us to talk about that, but you know, I want to get your take, yours and Nia's on that. I too love that quote. I think I'm so glad it was raised because, you know, we talk about that often, but we really don't, I think it's easy to write the list, right? Sort of. But I think we've got to do that and then some. And we've got to be honest with the list. It's your list. It's not the woman down the street. It's not mama's list. It's not, you know, it's not my daddy's list, but it's your list.
Yeah. So in the Black women, we, in the DNA that Reverend Shavon just talked about, it is really looking at, you know, we're hardwired to be in service of everyone else. I mean, look at the election, right? So all the way down to white women increase their support of Donald Trump. Black men also increased their support of Donald Trump. Black women, again, had to, you know, carry something and fix it and make it right. And so often in our workplaces, we find that the white woman messed something up and then I got to go back and I got to fix it, right? And so it is like that quote talks about, you know, you are literally turning away from that which you've been hardwired to do. So it is difficult. I get it, right? And I tell my clients all the time, this is your list. I can't make it. I can't make your life for you. We're going to spend, you know, 40 to 60 minutes together, a moment in time, maybe twice a week, depending on your diagnosis. But outside of that, you have to live the other, you know, 5 to 6 days that when we don't see each other. And so, like Shavon said, no is a complete sentence. And once you start saying no, it gets easier, I promise you. And so, you know, the saints always talk about, oh, let me pray about it. That's their easy way of not saying no. Just say no, right? You can't handle anything else. I also think about, like, you don't have to be tidy to be worthy, right? And so we think so often, let me, you know, make some dinner and then, oh yeah, I got to clean up the living room and I got to do this and do that. But kind of similar to what was mentioned earlier, I have so much more access to things that even my mother didn't have access to, right? So many more things that I have to do. I started my day at 8 o'clock this morning and I won't be done until 8 o'clock this evening. And so there is so much to do that I feel like, well, am I less than a woman because my living room has some extra toys in the middle of the floor? And so the answer is no. Right? You are still worthy of, you know, that which you've been called to do or that which you want. And what's so wrong with rest? I think, you know, we have replaced so many things with, you know, Zoom meetings and, you know, no offense, because I'm happy to be here, right? But we've replaced so many things like parties and whatnot with a Zoom link. And it's okay to sit down, right? Like it's okay to have a seat. And not apologize for that. And I always tell my clients, once you exercise these things, saying no, I talk about 3 minutes of courage, right? So when you want to say no, or you want to say something to someone, you know, in that moment, how do you feel about it? And say it, right? Like, in this moment, I have something to say to you. It may not come out really pretty and, you know, all polished, but I have to say this in this moment so that I can exercise my voice. That is self-care, right? The no doesn't have to have an explanation, but in case it does, do it in the first 3 minutes when you think about it. Because the longer you let it fester, the longer you're, you know, at the sink trying to clean dishes, or, you know, trying to get your work done or take care of the kids, it just sits there with you and it's resting on you and it's heavy, when you could have been done an hour ago and told the person exactly how you felt. And so those are the things that I tell people to actually walk in it. Say no. Say how you feel. You know, you don't have to be perfect. You can literally turn away from how people want you to show up and be your true authentic self.
First of all, you can be your authentic self, and in being your authentic self, you have to deal with what preconceived notions you have about your own authentic self. Because, and I've had a conversation with a lot of them about this. So when you think about needs, we're talking about emotional, sexual needs. Like, and that's like the real like taboo of all of this, is like, you feel bad because you want to have sex. It blows my mind, right? It's the preacher talking. It blows my mind that people get stuck on this desire for intimacy. Like, to hear the sister say she wants a hug, she meant that. That may not have been sexual. She just needs physical touch. Physical touch. Infant children will not live without a skin-to-skin contact experience. This is why we tell people all the time to go volunteer and touch babies. I'm telling you, I've talked about this before. It's a real thing. So a child that does not have touch will not survive. That's why you wrap and swaddle. You think that changes because you're 50, because you're sick? No. This idea of engaging in it. Listen, I have feelings, I have needs, I have sexual needs, I have intimate needs. I need somebody to tell me I look good. Whatever that is for you, accept and love it. Like, love it, experience it. And I think that we have tabooed in our community so much. And I'm in the faith space is even worse, because there is no teaching about like sexuality, sexual needs. Some churches are progressive enough to do that. Some faith institutions are not. So you kind of grow up like, that's nasty. Really? How'd you think you got here? Right? I mean, somebody had good sex and you're here. Right? So I think that there's so many nuances to this. It's one of the things I want to just add to, because Nia, you killing me. I'm about to go to Nia's office. Because, when you think about this, this authenticity of and full articulation, I'll say, of yourself and who you are. Once you start having that conversation with you, this process becomes something different. I had an epiphany on Sunday. Like, I was fussing to one of my business partners, like, I don't believe we're doing this work. I don't believe we're doing this work on Sunday. Got in the work and was euphorically overwhelmed in a great way. And it helped me say, all right, so these things I need to say yes to. Some of the stuff that's trying to get the dollar, some of that stuff is I'm just doing it because I'm just trying to get dollars. That's not my authentic self. My authentic self is to be who I am assigned, called, positioned to be. And then here's the other part. Black women, Black brothers, Black leaders, then learn how to transition out. Because that's another challenge. That's another reason why we're so entrenched in our stuff. Because we want to stay where we are for years and years, because what we have done is align that to our authentic self, that piece of position, that seat you sat in. And that's another dangerous place. So not being your authentic self and having judgment on yourself about who you are, but then also not talking about Why am I still sitting in this seat since I was 27 and now I'm 60? Does that make that makes no sense. Has anybody grown? Have you grown? Have you gotten something out of it? So those are some things I just wanted to just hit on that.
So, Shavon, you talk about, this whole need for intimacy. When you talked about many things, but I thought back, many of you may remember many years ago, there was a woman, they used to call her Mother Hale, and she was in New York, and they called it Hale House. And what her assignment, right, what she believed her assignment was to make sure that crack addicted babies were held. And so she had volunteers from across the country just to hold these babies. And so for us to think that we don't need that, and for us to deny ourselves that is problematic. But we got a couple of questions in the chat I'd like to raise. I know you're gonna be leaving us shortly, but I think the dialogue is so good. And one of them in particular, somebody talked about, and I think I lost it. It was specifically about the no, but also about the passive aggressive nature that comes after that. I'm hoping I can see it again, and I didn't, but maybe I'll
I actually see it just in terms of if you what men or people feel entitled to get to the yes based on what they want. And so this is about knowing your authentic self and having control over your space. So no one can make me do something but God, my daddy, right? I'm just, I'm my daddy's child. I'm 42 and I will sit in his lap right now, right? My father and my husband, right? I probably said that out of order, but those men are the men that are able to push me. And there's only about 3 sisters, maybe 4 max, that have something on in me that can be like, Shavon. Everyone else knows they need to line up because I have learned to protect my space. And when it becomes passive aggressive and nasty, that you know what that is? That's called exposure. That means the character of the person that's mad because you taking care of yourself is really not here for you, but is here for them and their agenda. So I would encourage the sister that, or the brother that asked that question, probably the sister, because she talked about men, to say, part of it is having your answer back. Thank you for exposing you. Thank you for telling me who you are. And the answer is still no.
And I think, and Nia, you can jump in on this, again, even about protecting my space, our space, that is novel. That's not like, oh yeah, I'm protecting my space. We've got to relearn what and that is the chore. How do I now figure it out to myself that I need to be having a different conversation, that Nia used words like worthy and some other things, but we got to know and believe that, right? And so we could do a full-on campaign to really help Black women own their space, to know their power and their and who they are, and then and even quite frankly, to respect the pause, because there are times you got to respect the pause. And I'm going to turn this back over to you guys. And I was on a podcast, and we were talking about a young woman, it was probably Nia, but we were talking about policing and police brutality, but we talked specifically about Breonna Taylor. And one of the things that was raised is how her rest was broken, that you broke a Black woman's rest. And, I think people were like, but the truth of the matter is, I think we need to talk about rest. And if you could, the two of you, and again, we'll move from here. Oh, it was Nia. Okay. The two of you, we could talk about the importance of rest and what happens when it's broken. And then how do I control my own rest?
Yeah. And because I'm going to transition off in a second, but I just want to close with the rest piece. And Nia, I'm calling you. I think so. Rest it has to be a part of. I've learned to schedule it. Crazy. I've mastered 12-minute naps. I'm telling you, stopping meetings at 1:48 for 2 o'clock. I have mastered the moments of listening to the thing in my body that clicks. When I can't take it anymore, my body talks to me. Sisters, brothers, listen to let me tell you about this body. It actually cares about you. Think about it. God made this whole physical space. And when your body, the ache, mine is here, the pressure points, I get it here. When it comes up and rises, and I'll say, you know what, guys, there's a couple calls coming up. Is there anything else before we go? Right? We got 12 things on the agenda, but I know that I have to have rest. I have learned how to find that moment. And then scheduling. When I know I need 6 to 7 every night, 6, 7 hours of sleep. And I know sisters out here that are getting 3 and 4 hours in the midst of a pandemic. There is no regeneration in your body. There's no renewal if you don't sleep. And I'm talking to myself because our bodies need a full reset. Just like your calendar, computer needs a reset, your body needs the same thing. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm going live in a minute. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. And when's the next one? Call me. I'm coming back to the shop.
Well, we want you to come back. Thank you for that. Perfect transition. Anything that you can think of that we need to be reading, send it. We'll make sure that we get.
Can I just show it real quick?
Please.
I just got to read this quote. So I'm reading The Cross and the Lynching Tree.
Good one. Oh, I'm not muted.
No, but I received that moment. In an era, the lynching tree joined the cross as the most emotionally charged symbols in the Black community. Symbols that represented both death and the promise of redemption, judgment, and the offer of mercy, suffering, and the power of hope. Both the cross and the lynching tree represented the worst in human beings, and at the same time, an unquenchable ontological thirst for life that refuses to let the worst determine our final meeting.
Wow. Wow. Hold it up.
James Cone,
we'll put that in.
He has since passed on in the last year. But he was really the father of this liberation theology context. So I love you and
love you. Thank you so much.
Well.
Don't use lipstick. Okay. So Nia, so that was good. I'm glad. So I hope everybody enjoys Shavon. I do want to have she raised something about rest and about, no renewal of when you don't sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I like her theory about the 12-minute rest. I've not figured that out. That is one of my struggles. I believe in radical self-care, but I will say this. When I first started in my new position at the office, I was only in the office for 2 weeks before COVID happened. But one of the things that I would encourage the staff, we started talking about dream time, and not dream like when you sleep. But I said to them, let me know when you want to take a 30-minute dream time. And I know they were probably like, what is up with her? But it is so that, number one, we don't forget, right, while we're where we are, but also so that we dream of what could be possible. So I really want to be able to say that about the importance of a rest, because, a Black woman's rest was broken. And, it's no secret, we've talked about, oh my God, I can't sleep, I've got a teenager. But how we build that in throughout the day, and then how we take time to dream. And I know you're going to talk about some other things we can do, some other practical things we can do in terms of self-care. But I'd like for you to just talk a little bit about rest.
Sure. And Shavon would hit the nail on the head, right? Like, so sleep, biologically, it allows for you to take the time to even solidify your memories. And so we find, if I didn't get any sleep, I'm most likely not going to remember those things that are important. And so you lay your depression on top of that, you lay your anxiety on top of that, and there are literal gaps in your memory because you have not been able to rest. And so like Shavon, I schedule it on Wednesdays after 6 o'clock. I can't do anything else. And so if that means that resting for me looks like it has nothing to do with mental health. Now it shows up every now and then, but it's usually like a TV show, right, on Netflix, and I just kind of watch it, right? And it might be trash TV, but for me, I don't have to fix their problems on TV. It's either it was written that way, right? The writer said, let's give them an issue, or it played out that way on the cutting room floor and on a reality TV show, but that's not my responsibility to fix. And so I rest in the fact that I don't have anything to do with that. And I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the comedy that comes from it. And then other times it is actually going to bed, right? Like the dust bunny's still going to be there tomorrow. You know, the food was made, the dishes were cleaned, you know, and I'm going to bed, right? And I don't have any apologies for that. And so even with my living with depression, I also have insomnia. And so as long as I am resting, right? If I am laying down and I have stopped looking at a screen, I am no longer, you know, up and about, but I'm just laying there and allowing my body to just have a moment to pause. That's important. And, you know, as a child, I watched my mother, you know, be up all night, and get up early the next morning. She still tries to do it. And so I thought that I had to do that same thing. And a little bit of it, you know, is kind of like middle-class values and ability to be able to say, I'm going to stop. But some of it is like, I can't, my cup is empty and I have to rest.
So thank you for that. I saw Alma put in the chat, we talked about, one of the things she said is sleep, rest, well, she said rest is not just rejuvenating, it is life-saving.
Absolutely.
And so I think I'm glad I saw that and read it, because I think that brings us to our next sort of how radical self-care, if we do this in a way, I mean, a full generation of women will live far beyond their expectancy. If we don't, then that's another issue. Talk a little bit about like some simple things folk can do. Everybody knows, you know, I'm a voracious reader. And so I could be under the covers reading. That's how much I love to read. But I also know that there's some other things that we can be doing, like journaling. And so can you talk a little bit about that? And then I'll let you lead us into some other things.
Sure. So, oh, look at that. It's a cheat sheet for me. 50 ways to take a break.
Oh, okay.
And certainly these are things that I always suggest. And so writing in a journal is an incredible way to get your ideas onto paper. Sometimes I tell clients that are having kind of trouble getting started, set a timer for 3 minutes. And in that time, just free writing, no prompt, no extra bells and whistles, just write. And, you know, there's a study that shows that even in that 3 minutes, you haven't even scratched the surface of all the thoughts that have passed your mind. But what you did do was you got kind of like those most pressing things onto paper. And so being able to just kind of, again, rest them there, close the book and walk away from it. When I was in with my own therapist, she had me to buy a journal called blah, blah, blah. That's what it said on the front. That's what I had to write on the front. And anytime I had thoughts that were keeping me up at night or that were just rolling around in my head throughout the day, I had to transfer them to paper and push them to the side. And so it was an actual act of caring for my brain and for myself by putting it onto paper and not worrying about it. Another thing that I teach clients, creativity. So I do a lot of making things. There's glue and all kinds of stuff in the carpet because of it. But you know, whatever it is that I need to do something with my hands, because if I'm doing something with both of my hands, whether that's creating a bracelet or a necklace or painting or drawing or, you know, just scribbling on a piece of paper, what am I not doing? I'm not engaging in social media and, you know, comparing myself to whatever else, because we know comparison is the thief of joy. I am not, you know, texting a girlfriend about some gossip. I am not, you know, I can't be on the phone and create, because I have to give it my full undivided attention. And so in that moment, I have fully turned inward and been able to take a creative break, and there's something pretty that comes from it. And being able to enjoy that object. And then I think the other thing would be really engaging with nature. So if you live in a concrete jungle like I do, I intentionally purchased a house that has no greenery because I don't want to do it. But there is a park. And so I can walk to the park. And if you're in Baltimore, every house in Baltimore is at least within 10 minutes of a walk to a park, at least. So just think about where you live. There is a park. It may or may not be activated in the sense that it has, you know, a bench and it's clean and things like that, but you can, you know, get to a green space. And so engage with the space, be there in the grass, take your shoes off, let your feet kind of wiggle in the grass if you feel comfortable. If you don't live close to a park, look up. Right? The sky is there. It's blue. It might be some other, you know, shade of some color, and kind of engage with the majesty that is the clouds. Right? And so those are just a few ways in which I say to take a break and to rest and engage with. Dr. Day Black just said it gives a sense of peace. It absolutely does.
So Nia, you know, I'm looking at this 50 ways to take a break, right? So I think, and because based on the way I am wired, there are some things I have to do with intentionality. It's not because I'm trying to be it is the way I am made, right? But I love this whole, I haven't done it, this whole color with crayons. So I struggle as an adult trying to wrap myself around a box of crayons, right? So you're gonna have to walk me through, I'm assuming that's healing and therapeutic, but yeah, help me. Oh, somebody else said they just started coloring. It's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
I hated coloring as a kid, mostly because I was anxious and didn't know it, right? And so I was so anxious about coloring outside the lines. And so what I have been doing with a lot of my clients is I'll mail them what I call their therapy kit. And it'll have at least 3 exercises in there for us to do either in session or outside of session. And you find which medium works for you. So it may not be crayons. I hate crayons. I don't like the way they smell. I don't like the way they look. They're weird to me, but that's just me. I prefer markers. And so, you know, they have the fine tip markers. They have the felt tip markers. The easiest thing to color are either and they're in the dollar store. It's called Mandalas. And it's really just a series of circles on a piece of paper. And what I do is I set an intention for while I'm coloring, and sometimes I don't. And I turn on the music, whatever music I want to hear, whether it's gospel or like lo-fi beats or whatever it is that I want to kind of center myself with, and just allow myself to color. It might go outside the lines. The pattern may not all be there, but you can't do anything else if you're engaging with the color. So find your right medium and find the thing that you want to. Terry, the Chill Hot playlists are really great. Find what medium works best for you. So whether it's crayons versus markers versus color pencils or gel pens, don't invest too much money in it. Go to Five Below or the dollar store so you can practice with what you want to use. Open it up and get started. And I lost Andrea. Let's see what's in the chat box.
Oh, maybe something happened and she'll be back on.
Yeah, there she is.
There we go.
You're muted.
It was you, right?
What happened to me?
I don't know. You started like going wonky. It was me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So I was blaming. I was like, she's got some jacked up cable. I said her internet is so jacked up. Okay. So I think you answered the crayon. You're muted again. Oh, yes, Andrea. Okay, this says my internet connection is unstable. Is that me? I find that hard to believe. Okay. Well, we'll just keep going then. We're going to keep on going. And I will say two things. If for whatever reason, it gets wonky again, one of the team members, please jump in and ask a question. And Nia, I know we had talked about working on doing a grounding exercise. Love to work in that place. But a couple other things. We talked a little bit about dream time. We talked about, I think you did mention journaling. I love the notion of music, because here's the other thing. People say, well, we can't get out, we can't do anything. How am I expected to balance when we can't do? But I think there are things that people can do. And if we could talk a little bit about some of those, and then we can ask people to obviously chime in some things that they've done, and then I'll lead you as you can go into grounding.
Got you. And so you said that the things that you can do in this moment.
Right, because I can't do this because of COVID. How do I? But if I could just add one thing, we had a staff meeting not too long ago, and one of the team members said, it's so funny, I say one of the team members as if it's 20 of us, but one of the team members talked about working on a self-improvement plan. Mm-hmm. And doesn't mean that we are jacked up, but in his mind, that was one of the ways to radical self-care. Self-care is saying, let me take a look at where I am, and then what kinds of things do I need to do for myself so that I am better for me and for others.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't always have to be, going out to do something that's self-care related. And so really finding that thing that brings you passion and joy. And one of the things that I like, Five Below actually has an entire online store, and they have tons of self-care journals. And so if you are trying to figure out, okay, I want to journal, but I don't know exactly what to write about, and the free write doesn't necessarily work for you, $5 or less, it's a book full of prompts about yourself, about others, about those things that you like to do, and really just kind of explore. There's an app called Dailyo that allows for people to engage with actually getting data about themselves. And so what it does is it allows you to track your emotions. It allows you to track your sleep. It allows you to track different journal entries. And it gives you data about who you are. So you're really able to kind of engage and to understand, okay, what things might be helpful. And it gives suggestions, what things might be helpful for someone who's creative or someone who's logical to engage in self-care. The library has an entire e-library card option. And so if you get if you don't want to spend lots of money in new books, but have, a computer or a tablet, you can download all the books that you want that are in this system that they use, and also get access to audiobooks and movies and all kinds of things to be able to explore, to learn, to grow, and it costs you nothing. It's a part of your tax dollars. And so those are things that you can do. We already talked about going out and experiencing nature and just taking a deep breath in and out, and being creative. Michael's is open. They have curbside pickup. You can pick what you want, go to the store, have your mask on, they drop it in your trunk, drive home. And there's tons of training videos, whether it's Teachable or Udemy or YouTube University. People learn how to do all kinds of stuff on YouTube, where you can learn how to do a new craft or whatever the case may be. If you want to tie-dye t-shirts, or you can pick it. That's the beauty of this moment that we're in, is that we have time to really turn inward and find those things that make us happy.
So thank you for that. I do want to on your form about the 50 ways or 50 something. It talked a little bit about, I saw music, I also saw dance, and in full transparency, probably about, I guess about maybe 8 years ago, I signed up for called an exotic dance class. And so I won't lose my job, or somebody's like, you know, Andrea's a pole dancer at night. That is not what I said. But what I am saying but I have to say this. I have to say this. And I know to many of you who I'm not mad. I hope I still, you know, I hope, Dr. Crystal, I still want to meet you and be in your company. I promise. But I say all of that to say, it was the best thing. One of the best things I've done for myself, because I got to embrace my body in a different way. The team knows I run typically every morning. I always, you know, exercise, and running is very important to me. But this was different. Like, I saw myself, and no matter what anybody else said, it was like, are you not talking to me as fine as I am, as Limba? But it was because everybody in the class was a different shape, a different size. And what you learned is how to embrace how you were made, right? And so maybe you had the gift of thicker thighs than some, but you got to embrace how you were made. And so, you know, one of the things for me, when I think about self-care, I think about taking risks. I would have never been in that class. Man, I wish I could go to another one. But it is about taking risks. And the other thing is, it is a blank canvas. Nobody knew me in there. I wasn't doing any. Yes, Crystal Day Black said it was so much fun. He was probably there with the highest heels on, but I found myself, quite frankly, in the mornings when I didn't have class, months after the class was over, I was dancing in the mirror, but in a way to just honor myself. And so, but again, that doesn't come naturally always. And so, you know, if I had to say anything to anybody, it is about take some risk, do some different things. You said something profound with this is a blank canvas, the place that we find ourselves. And so we have the ability to do all kinds of things. Our fearless leader, Alma, said that she is letting her gray hair come in because of COVID. And it is beautiful. I mean, beautiful. Now, that's not my story. I can't wait to get some dye. But I think that but being able to embrace that's radical self-care.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, again, I'll move to let you, I know you got a couple of things in mind that you wanted to do. I mean, I want you to be able to do that, but I think it is important. And the other thing that I will say, and you may get to this, is affirmations. You know, talk about reading, say an affirmation, create one that speaks to you, you know, create one about what you want to do and where you see yourself, you know, create one for the future. And I think those kinds of things, again, are small steps to intentionality about how we take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. Though the affirmations are important. It is a part of my prayer, my daily prayers, right? So it's one thing for me to, you know, go to God and whoever you serve, and ask for X, Y, or Z and be thankful for X, Y, or Z, right? It's another thing for me to, at the close of my prayer, that I affirm that, you know, this thought is going to be with me for the rest of the day. And so I may not be able to carry the whole prayer, but I can carry that today. I affirm that I am, you know, exhaling anxiety and inhaling intentionality. Roxana just dropped in, I am light, I am kind, I am worthy. So that kind of positive self-talk is actually, there's data to prove. It's a whole thing around positive psychology. The thing that I talked about earlier, why I was enraged, is that for a lot of Black women, especially those who live in the shadow of structural racism and poverty and all these things, is that sometimes that don't work, right? And so we have to, be able to find a space for Black women to feel like, I can't be positive in this moment, but I can still love myself, right? And so really examining that, there's so much about life that we carry. There's so much that we're grieving the loss of. But if we can really ground and center ourselves in the present moment, right? Being thankful for our breath, being thankful for the life that we have, being thankful for, the way our hair curls or doesn't curl, is a start, right? I heard somebody say that Black pride is mental health. And so maybe, if we start there, we can then kind of get the other bubbles to attach to it. But for sure, those affirmations are important.
And then I think, and I said I'd pass this on to you, but I guess I can't help myself. But one of the things we mentioned earlier, and again, Alma Roberts talked about, the current political climate, right? We talked about all of that. We know about the infiltration of racism in our communities. We're all too familiar with that. But, we've talked among ourselves as the team about how this place that we find ourselves has been stressful, right? Super stressful, won't call the election, blah, blah, blah. But I think one of the things that we are learning too, we have to be intentional about tuning out, right? So that means, I'm not watching the news today. I don't care what he does. I'll do what the man down the street do. But what I am going to do is be healthy in this moment. And so, again, it is stuff that we're not used to, especially if you live in a house with other people. The first thing my husband comes in is Crystal Day Black is funny. One of the things that my husband does as soon as he comes in is the news. And if he could keep it on all night, I'm like, you know what? I can't. I'm gonna have to. I can't. But I have. And one of the things that there's a way to stay informed, but still be healthy about it. And you gotta just, I think you use this term. I've got to, shut out the noise.
Yeah, sometimes you have to quiet the noise. And so if that is the TV comes on at a specific time, you catch up and you turn it off. I have all of the social media on my phone, but I do not get any push notifications. And I only sign in maybe once a day. And so actually unplugging, sometimes even our email can be a trigger, right? And so really being intentional about, okay, I check in at a specific time and I, blitz everybody that sent me a message, and then I turn the notification off again. And there's no harm in that. And, in capitalism, we're sold this kind of hustle mentality all the time, having to be informed on social media, on email. It's a lot. Sometimes you just take the plug out the wall and walk out. And that's okay.
Did you want to take questions, Nia? I know that you had some thoughts about what you wanted to do, and either I'm losing you, you're losing me. I think it's your okay.
That was my end this time. Now stuff is jumping. There we go. Questions.
All right. And I know that there are some in the chat. Roxanne, are you able to share with us some from Facebook?
Oops. None from Facebook. Bryce Jones said, we must rest. The body keeps score, even if we don't. And then Ms. Terry had said, she has some comments here. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's not letting me pull up the other comments, but no questions.
Okay. We can practice the grounding exercise if you want.
I think you should, yes.
Sure.
Okay. Terry said her question was answered. Let's practice the grounding.
Sure. So there is a technique that I do with my clients.
Do I have to be a clinician to do this?
No. No. It's easy. You have your 5 senses. You're good. And so
Okay.
I practice this with clients who have anxiety or are trying to process through something, or for just to take a break in the moment. And so it's really about all 5 of your senses. So see, feel, taste, touch, smell. And so we start with just kind of being comfortable in our seat. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't feel comfortable, but just kind of have your feet relaxed on the floor. If you're sitting on the floor, just kind of extend your legs or just be as comfortable as you need to. There's really no rules for it. And so the first one is identify 5 things that you can see in the room where you are right now, and just acknowledge it. And I think Andrea's frozen on me again. And so in this moment, I can see, and then you kind of acknowledge those 5 things. So for me, I would say I can see my computer, I can see my desk, I can see, because I'm looking in the camera, I can see the things that are on the wall behind me. I can see Andrea because she's on the screen in front of me, and I can see my tea mug. Okay, so those are 5 things that are in the room with you. 4 things that you can touch or feel. And so you notice the sensation of the clothing on your body, maybe the chair that you're sitting in, where your feet are resting. So I can feel the carpet underneath my feet. And there's a bead that I lost because I was making something. I can feel the comfy sweatpants that I'm wearing. They're soft. I'm all about soft fabrics. I can feel the chair that I'm sitting in. You see Andrea touching her hair. She can feel her hair and acknowledge all of its glory. And so just acknowledging those things that you can feel, okay? Then it's 3 things. So see, feel, 3 things that you can taste. No, it's 2 things that you can taste. So it's 3 things that you can, I'm losing my instructions, and I do this once a week. Hold please. I should have had this pulled up. So it is, here we go. 3 things that you can hear. That's the sense that I forgot about. So being still in the moment, most of you can probably hear my voice. I can hear my printer, for whatever reason, it's making a noise, and I can hear my son in the front of the house. And so those are the things that I can hear. Sometimes it might be things that you have blocked out. It might be the wind outside your window, whatever the case may be. Then it's 2 things that you can smell. If in that moment you can't smell anything, identify those things that you like to smell. And so sometimes clients will talk about, oh, I love the way my mom's sweet potato pie smells, or my favorite candle is this fragrance by whom. And so something that I can smell in the moment is my Bath and Body Works aromatherapy candle. It is my absolute favorite. It's the eucalyptus mint for stress relief. And I can smell the product that's in my hair. And then the last thing is acknowledge 1 thing that you can taste. And so again, if it's something that you can't taste, if you can't taste anything in the moment, your favorite thing to taste. Or you can have a peppermint maybe in your pocket, or a piece of gum that you actually, can put in your mouth in this moment and enjoy. Some people like dark chocolate at this part of the exercise. Some people identify, my favorite thing to taste is fresh coffee. That's actually my answer. And so really in this activity, you have tuned out everything that's around you. You've quieted the noise, and you've been able to just focus in on this present moment and ground yourself. And so sometimes I'll start a session this way, or I'll end it, or if the client is particularly all over the place, we'll stop in the middle and kind of ground ourselves and then move forward. But we can definitely send out this resource to you all to be able to ground yourself when you have so much going on around you.
Thank you for that, Nia. One of the things I saw that Crystal Day Black said was, 1 thing, unless she spelled it wrong, it was something about task. But I just thought that was interesting. She said, so 2 things you can smell, be careful, it's not COVID-19 related. Acknowledge one thing. Did you mean task or taste? You said taste, I think, but okay, but she said task. Do you think?
Taste.
Oh, taste, okay. And the
Yeah.
only reason, and I wasn't being flipped when I asked the question, I was asking because, one of the things that I'm learning to do is set the day with intention. That's why when she said task, I thought,
Yeah.
oh, okay, one thing you can
Yep.
task. That's so okay. I like the taste, but okay.
One thing you can task.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That's your big rock, right? And
Right,
then you
that's right. That's
smash
right.
that big rock into its little pieces. So, yep, that's a good one too.
Yeah, and then somebody said, what is a singing bowl? I think they're talking to another participant, but.
If I'm not mistaken, it's a round like copper-ish bowl that has like a attachment piece, and you kind of roll it around this bowl, and it makes the sound. When you think about like Buddhists who are preparing to meditate, when they make that whoo noise, that's the bowl that makes that sound.
Okay. And then somebody else asked about laughter and how it can change. I don't think it was a question. I think it was a comment about how laughter can change highly intense moments. And not only is that accurate, but laughter is medicine for us. It really is. And sometimes I'm like, God, I want to be on the floor just rolling around. I'm like, I'm gonna get on this call. I know it's gonna be comical. No, but I think those are the things that we take for granted. But laughter really is medicine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I'm having a hard day, it's nothing for me to turn on whatever I consider funny. To just like, again, it's the same thing as me turning on a TV show after a long day that I don't have to change anything about that TV show. Same situation. I get to just laugh and to be and forget about my troubles for a minute. So, yep, definitely medicine.
Yes. I think any parting words. I know that you will, Roxana will make things available to us about the 50 things. I know that there's also but I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any last final things about, the balancing act and radical self-care. So if you do, please do that at this time.
Yeah, I shared this with a group of young people earlier today that your mental health is essential work. It's not, just something that's just there. It's just like your physical health. So when you feel a pain in your back or, something that's just not right, you typically treat it. Same thing for your body, same thing for your mind. Take care of it like it's essential work, and that it's important to you and that you can't go on without it. And if we do that unapologetically, imagine the impact for, as you say, Andrea, generations unborn, that, the level to which I've taken care of my self-care is now a trampoline at best. Or at worst, it's a trampoline for my son to be able to bounce off of and go to the next level.
Powerful. Well, Nia, first of all, thank you. Thank you for obviously for being on the panel with Shavon, and then and then just sort of carrying the rest of it. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you bring. And the other thing, I think if we do this right, when we showed that picture of the young girl from the New Yorker, it is our responsibility to teach her and others about the balancing act and about self-care. And we do it early so she's not stuck later trying to figure it out. So it becomes a part of who they are and it becomes the essential work. So unless we have any further questions, I just again want to, there she is. Oh, and she's gone. There she is. I just want to again thank everybody for joining us. I am going to ask you two quick things. We will do a survey. I'm going to ask that you please complete it. It helps us as we do this work. We know that this is not a salon or a barbershop, but the dialogue is equally as important. It is almost like food for our souls. So I want to make sure that you weigh in and tell us what you'd like to see more of. We get to talk to our partners regularly and say, oops, this is the feedback that we've gotten. So asking you to do that. And I think the last thing is want to tell you about our December 8th. You don't want to miss our Mind Health Shop Talk for December 8th. And it really is about the importance of movement, including breath work and, things that it's important breathing a certain way and things that we don't always think is essential, but it is. And so super excited about that. Come on out and join us for that. And then you get to have the rest of your month free. We won't bother you, I promise. But we are living in, this is an exciting opportunity to do some different things, whether that's dancing, whether that is learning how to breathe differently, whether that is letting music speak to us. But it is an opportunity for us to do some different things. So again, thank you. Thank you to our sponsors. Again, thank you to our panelists. You were great. We appreciate you. And thank you to the Black Mental Health team. I think that's it, Roxana. Am I off cue?
Nope, you're good. I placed the links for the Survey Monkey and the next shop talk in the chat.
Wonderful. So it's in the chat. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, Nia. You can get your time back and unplug. Thank you, team. And again, we look forward to your being with us in December. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.